for TV.
Welcome back to Doctor Who Too Hot for TV Series 3. We're back with another bunch of exciting episodes with a podcast that looks at all things Doctor Who Extended Universe, from Big Finish to BBC books, comic strips, short trips and BBV, and anything even more tenuous than that. We're back for a brand new season with a whole host of guests joining me, Dylan, to talk spin-offs. And for episode 1, I have Richie from the I Hate Doctor Who podcast. Richie, how's it going?
Hi. It's great. It's great to be on. I'm quite excited because, and I'm not just blowing smoke, this is my favourite Doctor Who podcast, so don't tell on the time lash. But...
That's very kind of you to say. So, Richie, I ask everybody who comes on the podcast this question. It's a very generic, dull question, but it does help to kind of paint a picture. How did you get into Doctor Who?
Well, my journey to become a Doctor Who fan is quite sort of long and probably a bit boring.
We've got all day.
So, when I was younger, I was more of a Star Trek kid, but I was generally quite obsessed with sci-fi and television in general. That my interest in telly kind of flourished in the 90s when Doctor Who was not about. Being someone who was kind of, like, I read a lot of sci-fi magazines, and being in that period when it had just disappeared, Doctor Who was all... I mean, through all those years, Doctor Who was constantly in the magazines being fired at me. So yeah. I had this constant, like... And it had such a legendary status as well that I was like, I know I'm going to love this. I need to get as much information as I can about it. So, but also the other thing is I just dismissed spin-offs entirely for anything, Star Trek, anything I loved.
What?
I was never a spin-off person at all. Just
You're
because
on the wrong podcast.
I know. Because... You know, some because I was a kid, but some stupid thing in my head was like, it's not canon. I'm not interested. But yeah, Doctor Who through the 90s was something that I was always sort of trying to grab whatever I could of. And obviously my very first was the 92 repeat of the Sea Devils. Right. And the funny thing about the I always think back to that, the Sea Devils. I didn't watch it from the beginning, but I do remember them coming out of the water.
What a cliche.
I know. The thing that always stuck with me is that Doctor Who also had this reputation of being scary, and I remember watching it, and it was the soundtrack really put the shits up me. I mean, I watch it now.
Devils.
Yeah, because the soundtrack's so sort of abrasive and mental, you know, and it had and it just has that old film look as well, and it was just all so that kind of got me in a wee bit further. But the problem was this: as a kid, every person in my life that I spoke to about Doctor Who, I always got the same answer from all the adults in my life. It was like, oh yeah, we used to watch that. It was shite. Or, you know, it was good at the time, but I think it might be rubbish now. So, and of course the videotapes were expensive, and I had a very limited amount of money to spend my money on. But yeah, so over the years I'd be reading about it, and I read a lot of TV Zone magazine.
I remember it well.
Actually, I mean, I work in video and editing and, you know, filmmaking and all that sort of stuff. And one of the things that I do attribute to sort of pushing me in that direction is they ran a series, it might have been towards the end of the 90s, of looking at the visual effects of Doctor Who. Right. And I remember there's a very specific one that really captured my imagination, and it was the ring from the Demons. Right. There's like a ring of tinsel that they put up, and then put up, you know, and then Vaseline the lens to make it sort of sparkly to create the gate through the barrier. I remember reading those kind of Doctor Who visual effects articles and all the pictures that they showed of it, and I just thought, Christ, this looks amazing. But also all the techniques they were using felt sort of weirdly achievable. Yeah. Like you watch a visual effects thing about Star Wars and you're like, yeah, cool, I see how they do that, and that's quite interesting, but yeah, whatever. But then we're suddenly like, we're putting tinsel up and smudging the lens, and you're like, I could do that.
Is that what you do now?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't tried it yet, but no, I remember all that sort of stuff. And then, of course, we were constantly being bombarded with like stories about like who was going to be the next Doctor. So I remember like TV Zone using that image of Stephen Fry from the Oscar Wilde film.
Right, yes.
And then Eddie Izzard, Patrick Stewart, all those every month.
All the classics.
All the classics, yeah.
Eric Idle, John Cleese.
Yeah, but I remember everything I could watch, I did. So it was like, I remember Doctor Who night, watching all the documentaries, watching the sketches and not really quite getting them. And it's funny, like, the TV movie as well was another good one, because I remember I talked to someone, I did an I Hate Doctor Who with a few months ago with someone and we watched the TV movie, And he made a really excellent point that, like, when I look at the TV movie now, I think, God, it's so sort of bogged down by continuity for that first bit. But actually, when he was telling me, it was a really good primer for all the Doctor Who lore, like explaining regeneration, the two hearts, and all that. And he was right, because I remember picking up all of that from the TV movie. But yeah, I didn't have Yuki Gold or anything like that, so it was literally what I could grab. So it was like Genesis of the Daleks and the Silurians and Spearhead from Space, I remember, on BBC Two. I do remember I borrowed the Five Doctors. Remember the Five Doctors? I think it was the first DVD release?
Yes.
Off my mate's mum. And then, of course, by the time the new series came along, it suddenly became like way more accessible. And then obviously I kind of the dam broke, and then I finally got sort of fully, well and truly into it and
immersed in the world.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about it in a bit with what we're talking about today. But I came round to spin-offs, definitely. I remember Mark from On the Timelash actually way back in like 2006. Lending me Big Finish CDs. I remember he lended me Jubilee and Chimes of Midnight.
So he got you in with some classics.
He did, yeah.
No one ever starts with Sirens of Time and things like that, do they?
So yeah, that's basically the journey in. But yeah, I'm fully on board now.
It's weird you mentioned TV Zone, because I haven't thought about TV Zone for a long time. And the moment you say it, I've got this image of, it must have been about 91, 92, this cover of TV Zone, and it had Sylvester McCoy in his brown outfit, like stars behind him, and then the Next Generation Enterprise on the cover.
Yes. Yeah.
That's come rushing back to me. The moment we're done here, I'm getting on eBay and buying a copy of that magazine, and all of a sudden I'm 7 years old again.
Yeah, no, that magazine was so good. I think the thing I remember about being into kind of genre television back then was, I mean, if most of the stuff, especially watching Star Trek, most of the stuff is coming from America, which means you're probably not going to see it for a year, 6 months to a year after a broadcast. So you would read about specific episodes, and then like the kind of value and weight and expectation you'd put on just a single screen grab or an episode title, and just be like, and then waiting for it to come out. It just doesn't. It was a completely different experience.
I remember SFX magazine used to have a thing called like the Spoiler Zone or something, and it was just reviews of things that are broadcast in America. And when it first started, it was in a separate section that you tore open down the side, like it contained some explicit material or something. Like there was going to be tits everywhere, and it was just like, oh no, there's an episode of Deep Space Nine where this happened.
Like the black covers they put on porn mags and garages.
Exactly that. But in the 90s, you put those over your Doctor Who magazine when you're coming out of a shop anyway, wouldn't you? Yeah. Didn't want to be spotted with one of those.
Yeah.
So on your podcast, I Hate Doctor Who, can you explain to people a little bit of the premise of that?
I know, what's hilarious is that the name that I've chosen for it doesn't really, I think it might drive away the audience that I'm looking for. I remember posting a link on, I think it was on Reddit or something when I started doing it, and the first comment that came up was like, why would you put so much effort into something that you dislike? And it's like, no. But I hate Doctor Who was kind of born out of the idea that, like, of my core friend group, I'm kind of the only Doctor Who fan, so, and I like to talk about it constantly. And I know that there sometimes are just like, So it had this idea that I was like, I could take, my friends one at a time and then ask them about some stuff that they like, and then try and figure out what Doctor Who story they would enjoy. Yeah. Because I have it in my head that like there has to be one. There's so much Doctor Who, there has to be one for everyone. Yeah. So what I do is I get them to tell me their favorite films and TV shows, and then I choose a story and then we talk about it. I have had one convert who has since been buying the Blu-rays. Yeah, my very first guest has been buying all the Tom Baker Blu-ray box sets. I started him off with Robots of Death as well.
So you won.
I won, yeah. Victory.
That's amazing. It's this thing that I feel like all Doctor Who fans do it when they're in. Most of my social circle don't give a fuck about Doctor Who, and at the very least, they might watch a new series episode if it happens to be on. Yeah. But none of them are invested. But I, much like you, for some reason, I still feel the need to tell them all the exciting news that's happened.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm the arsehole that someone will turn around and go, "Oh, what do you think of Ncuti Gatwa, the new Doctor Who?" I'm like, "Well, actually, I don't think he is the new Doctor Who. I think David Tennant's the new Doctor Who." And then Ncuti will be after that, and they're like, "What?" It's like, I'm in the know, mate. I'm in the fucking know. And they're all just thinking, you fucking wanker. What a loser.
Yeah.
So, as you say, on the podcast, you get them to pick their top 5 TV shows and films.
Yeah, that's right.
So I thought we'd do a take on that for this. And so I asked you what your top 5 classic series stories and new series stories. Can you remember what those were? I've got them listed here, but can you remember?
Let's see if I can remember. I'm sure in no particular order. I think I've probably put... I know Invasion's in there.
It is.
Horrifying Rock.
Yeah.
Inferno?
It is.
What were the other two? Oh my god.
You've got a Pertwee and a McCoy.
Oh yeah, Delta and the Bannerman.
Yes, which I thought was a wild choice. I've got nothing against Delta, but it's not even the best McCoy. It's not even the best one of that series.
I watched it recently and I just really kind of went with it. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, stick to your guns. Yeah. Stick to your guns. I like Delta and the Bannermen, but it's not entering any of my top 5 unless it's like top 5 stories set in Wales.
Oh, God, what was the last one?
Pertwee.
Was it Green Death?
It was indeed.
It was Green Death, okay.
So that's quite a good top 5 of classic series. You know, I think Delta is questionable, not because I think it's bad, but, you know, it's your top 5. And then for the new series, can you remember what you chose there?
Okay. Midnight.
Yeah.
Heaven Sent.
Yeah.
Doctor Falls.
Yes, the two-parter.
The two-parter.
Yeah.
And Human Nature.
Yeah, and there's one more.
Oh, shit. God Complex?
It is the God Complex. Not a lot of love for the God Complex, but I love that story. So
I have watched it so many times. I just love it. I love the tone of it.
Yeah.
And the look, it sort of stands out. I feel like Matt Smith, he has some of the best standalone episodes.
Yeah.
Definitely. I've got a lot of love for a lot of his ones, yeah.
The only thing that lets it down is that gorilla at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
It's like it's perfectly shot. Everything looks amazing. It's a fantastic story. It's the sort of thing I want to show people who hate Doctor Who.
Yeah,
This is how good Doctor Who can be. But it starts with the shittest thing possible.
A couple of years ago, I was watching Waters of Mars, and I had a friend staying with me, and he got up. It was in the morning, so he got up and he sat down with me, and the fucking robot Gadget. Yeah, when that comes up, he looks at me. And I was like, I know, but then he explained to me, he says, this has happened, this exact situation has happened to me before with this exact episode. And I says, what do you mean? It's like, that discomfort, I was at another friend's house and he was watching Doctor Who and it was this episode and I came in and the robot came on and he looked at me as if to say, no, it's actually really good. I feel like it's always when someone it's got this incredible timing of when someone walks into the room. It's like it's one of those bits. It's the gorilla, as you say.
Yeah. But I always feel even in like the best episodes, there's always something. So there's never like a perfect episode you can show to people and go, oh, but there is this one element that's a bit shit. It's like Doctor Who just has to be a tiny bit shit at all times.
I know. Do you know what it's like? Do you know Heaven Sent, which is just an astonishing episode for me. Like, again, another one I've watched 100 times. But there's always that bit where he talks to the door. And I'm like, what's I can't, like, with Doctor Who, I can do the mental gymnastics. I'll go through it and be like, that's a thing, that's fun, whatever. But when he talks to the door, nothing. I can't even though I'm like, it's in a sort of weird virtual reality.
Yeah.
But he's talking to the door and it unlocks for him. What
do you know the bit for me in it is it's so stupid, but you know the whatever you call it, is it called like the Wraith or something like that? What's and there's just a little gap in the bandages where the actor's clearly looking out of, and even though you can't see the actor looking out, I just look at it and go, there's a little man's face behind there.
Like when you see the Dalek operator behind the mesh in whatever
exactly
episode. That's great.
So from there, I had to try and pull out a spin-off that I thought would suit you.
Okay.
Let's disregard Delta and the Bannerman.
Okay.
Because that is an oddity in your selection. But I kind of went, you like your Doctor Who a bit grim, a bit dystopian. It's all quite dark and hopeless, the things you've chosen. Mm-hmm. A lot of people die and don't come back. Would you say that's fair? Is that how you like your Doctor Who?
Yeah. A grim but fun.
So I stewed over what to do for a few minutes. Maybe 20, who knows? And I sort of came up with, which I wasn't thinking originally, but I just thought it might be a nice fit, the Unbound audio, Sympathy for the Devil, which stars David Warner as the Doctor and Nick Courtney as the Brigadier. Now, I think we should say very quickly, since we chose this, David Warner has died. But the choice is completely coincidental.
Absolutely, yeah.
But we'll talk about him and that a bit later on.
Too hot for TV.
Sympathy for the Devil was the second release in the Unbound range. It was recorded on the 24th of March 2003 at the Moat Studios and was released on the 16th of June 2003. So, news at the time, it was announced that the BBC Special Effects Department was going to close its doors, having been running since the 50s. DWM also, confusingly, were like, Season 29 of Doctor Who is here, which was just Paul McGann's third series of audios. It's weird that at the time they were still pushing that as like, this is the official continuation of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
In that form.
I didn't know that, but yeah.
Yeah. The 40th anniversary convention was announced in the form of Panopticon, but perhaps the most interesting event that was advertised in this issue of DWM was from Next Stage Drama Limited, which promised 6 days in a fantastic part of the French Alps with Doctor Who stars, which sounds like the beginning of a Shining-esque film if ever there was one. The advert says in 2002 the stars included Sophie Aldred, Deborah Watling and Christopher Barry, and in 2003 they're delighted to have Louise Jameson amongst others. And it's basically an opportunity to just go on holiday with Doctor Who stars in an alpine town and do some drama classes with them. And there's a quote from someone called Rachel Power who said, "Best holiday ever." And then somebody else called Thomas Hutchins, "I enjoyed everything. I'd be the first on the list for another one."
That is so bizarre. I mean, that's... Sometimes you hear about it. It's like the Doctor Who cruise.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I want to see a 3-hour documentary about that entire... what was going on there, what happened, what it looked like. I want quotes from more than 2 people about the quality of it. Because I imagine sort of going to stay in a town and then just constantly being like, are they around? Have you seen them yet?
Has anybody seen Sophie Aldred? She's just hiding somewhere, trying to get away. It's her and 100 nutters just want to spend 6 days with her.
Yeah, Jesus. In the Alps.
Yeah, and those 6 days will set you back the pricely sum of £450.
That seems quite... I mean, okay, what was it, 2000... I can't even remember what that would have been in 2003, but it sounds quite cheap.
It sounds quite cheap, but I don't think... In 2003, I had £450 to go on holiday with Louise Jameson.
I definitely did. Definitely didn't.
And I don't think it's the sort of thing that if I'd asked my dad for my birthday, "Dad, can I have a £450 trip to the French Alps with a bunch of weird Doctor Who fans and Sophie Aldred?" He'd be like, A, we can't afford it, and B, no, you're weird, stop it.
But I've seen enough prop auctions to know that a lot of Doctor Who fans have money, so some of them do anyway.
Like, in the 90s, especially when they were auctioning off everything, some people did very well out of that because they had lots of money. But I was 10 and so couldn't afford to buy John Pertwee's costume from The Green Death, apparently.
Yeah. or a single TARDIS roundel.
Exactly. Also out at the time, there was the Daleks Invasion of Earth had just made it to DVD, something that I'd forgot about and I might pick up at some point. Big Finish had released the Nicholas Courtney memoirs as an audio CD. Doctor Who The Dark Flame, featuring the 7th Doctor Benny and Ace, was out on CD from Big Finish. The last Tom Baker story to be released on VHS happened. What do you think that story was?
Oh, Jesus, I have no idea. Is it a late one or an early one? Can you give me a hint?
It's reasonably late. Like, this was the tail end. This was very much like the fag end of the Doctor Who range, and everything they were releasing was not deemed to be a classic.
Okay. Creature from the Pit?
It wasn't. You got the right season there.
You're going to have to. I have no idea.
It was the Horns of Nyman.
It was there. It was in my head. I should have just said it. I froze up. Sorry. Yeah, cool.
And then the comic strip running at the time was the 8th Doctor comic strip, The Nightmare Game. And that's sort of everything going on in Doctor Who world at the time.
Too hot for TV.
When a newly regenerated Third Doctor arrives in Hong Kong 1997, he realises he's been exiled by the Time Lord some 30 years too late. Without his help, both the planet Earth and his old friend the Brigadier have been through some challenging times. The Doctor's arrival coincides with the British government handing back sovereignty to the Chinese, but when an invisible plane crashes, the Doctor soon realises his old enemy, the Master, is there too, who, having defected to the east and created a bunch of mindless zombie soldiers for them, is now defecting back to the west, with UNIT, now led by the antagonistic Colonel Broomcombe Wood, in search of the defector. The Master has been using a mind parasite to create the zombie soldiers and is now after the last parasite, which is being kept in a soul jar by a group of monks who keep it sedated by singing to it constantly. The Master intends to use the final parasite to control the world, but after a double bluff by both the Master and the Doctor, the parasite is destroyed in the nuclear explosion. Both Wood and the Master are left in China as the clock strikes midnight, meaning they are now stuck behind enemy lines, while the Doctor and the Brigadier escape into time and space in the TARDIS.
Too hot for TV.
So, first of all, have you ever heard this story before?
I haven't heard a single Unbound story. I actually became aware of it when you guys talked about one of them in an old episode.
Ah, right.
But I love the idea.
Yeah.
There's a nice thing going on with kind of Big Finish at that point where the brand doesn't really isn't as secure as it is now.
Yeah.
I always love that. There's lots of things like when the brand kind of loosens out a bit and people start to just play about with it and try sort of lots of different weird things, and I feel like Unbound couldn't happen now.
I don't think it could, and if it did, it would happen in a very different way. But
yeah,
Gary Russell was very anti doing multi-Doctor stories, and so this was the 40th anniversary, and obviously they had Zagreus coming, which was sort of a multi-Doctor story, but it had the other Doctors playing different parts that were sort of the Doctor. The premise behind Unbound was twofold. Get a bunch of people that should have played the Doctor to play the Doctor, and do things that you wouldn't necessarily do with the Doctor. So I think it's kind of safe to say that a lot of people thought at some point David Warner should play the Doctor. So I guess coming into it fresh, what are your kind of initial thoughts experiencing it for the first time?
Going into it, like even early on in the episode, you realise it's like they've gone for a slightly darker edged type of story. We sort of start with like a racist character, and we're in, Hong Kong. And I mean, the thing that I really liked immediately about David Warner is he had a very kindly, soft way of playing it.
Yeah,
and it was really nice. And it was, I love David Warner as an actor. He's done a lot of my sort of favourite things. So like, I felt like they'd done him dirty a wee bit in Cold War by sort of casting him as a janitor, because I was like, God, he could have been anything.
It's so disappointing that his one contribution to televised Doctor Who is that character that could have literally been played by anybody. Like, he doesn't necessarily have to be a villain, but like, you want to give him a grander character than that. Give him a Rassilon or something like that. But instead, he just plays a guy in a submarine who's obsessed with Ultravox.
Yes. But I mean, again, I'm still happy to see him, and he sort of turned up in Star Trek quite a lot, and and obviously Time Bandits is one of my favourite films. So I was excited to listen to it, and going into it, I was really into it. I was really into there was a sort of nice, sort of soft, synthy soundtrack to it.
Yeah.
It just had a really kind of misty, dark... I think basically you're bang on with your choice. Like, you look at all the stories that I've chosen, and but it had a very kind of like... You could feel it. You could feel the texture of it, and it was just... I really loved it. From the get-go, I was really into it.
It's a real sort of oddity for me, because it's sort of like maybe a late 90s, early noughties Doctor Who could have been, but it's also like a sequel to a TV story, which is The Mind of Evil, with loads of continuity references, but it's also trying to be this quite gritty drama, so you kind of need to know your Doctor Who to enjoy it, but also it doesn't necessarily feel like Doctor Who. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was going to say, I even feel like the Doctor in this story, it's not like he plays a massive pivotal role in it. Like, again, if this was post 2005, it would be something completely different, but I feel like it was like the Doctor's there. It's like almost like sort of that very old Doctor Who, where like the Doctor's kind of there and he is taking part in what's going on, but he's just part of the story rather than the whole story.
It's got quite a solemn, grim tone to it. Like, the only way I can describe it is like a Doctor Who hangover. It's like after you've had the big bombastic party of, say, something like Survival or anything like that, that's Doctor Who firing on all cylinders. This is like, oh God, I've still got to get through this dreary, miserable situation. And it kind of works as a piece of Doctor Who, but weirdly, it's supposed to be like a version of 70s Doctor Who, and it doesn't quite sit along that canon, really, does it?
I don't think it does. No, I think you're right about it. It could be. You could see it as a sort of like that BBC style 90s filmified video look that all their dramas had.
Exactly. Tonally, it's probably nearest to season 7 in terms of, but it kind of has like bits of sort of like a Cartmel feel to it. But it kind of stands alone as this unique thing, which is what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
And so it's set in Hong Kong on the 30th of June, where the British are about to hand over China back to the Chinese. And it's this dystopian world where the Doctor didn't land in his 70s exile, so he landed 30 years later. And so there's lots of events of the 70s happen, but in different ways. It's sort of like a turn left. You know, you get Operation Golden Age taken out by Yates going back with a bunch of men and blowing up a nuke, giving their lives up. How do you feel about this doctorless universe? Because it's not quite as on the nose as Turn Left. It's more, oh no, of course the humans would survive, but, you know, there's no plastic and blah, 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 blah.
When we initially established that he'd been exiled and thrown into the 90s rather than whenever those stories are meant to be, I thought, well, how did they all deal with it? And then obviously it goes into it. But yeah, you're right. It's I mean, obviously, apart from the fact that if they all died, there wouldn't be a story. But I think what was nice, actually, was when we come across the Brigadier running the pub.
Yeah.
Initially, when you hear his voice and you realise that that's what's happening, there is a feeling of like, okay, what's the deal here? Is this... Because when I was listening to it, because I had no idea going in, like, where it was meant to be or where it was meant to diverge. Or I thought, okay, is this just a brand new... So when we get to the Brigadier running the pub, I was like, is this just a completely different idea where he left the military and then as it fills out as you go on, it's really nice actually, because as it fills out as it goes on and just drops these little bits of information, you do start to go, right, and then you piece it together. Yeah, it's like a nice way of introducing all your exposition without just explaining it to you. So I think that I loved that as well, just because of the way that it gradually, like, without explaining it, it just comes together in your head and you're like, right, I've got it. And you just have to say things like the plastic purges and all that. And you're like, okay, right. And you know, and you're right. It's very much like you have to know your Doctor Who to be able to piece all that together, I guess. So
So the person that the main sort of focus of it is the Brigadier, who's now a slightly depressed, rundown army officer. As you say, he's running a pub. He's a bit of a drunk. Do you think perhaps Nicholas Courtney and the Brigadier would kind of merge into one at this point?
That did occur to me. I was like, oh God.
It's a bit close to home, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe a wee bit.
I think it's an interesting thing to do with the Brigadier, and it's heartbreaking to find this guy who was an absolute fucking hero in the classic series reduced to this, we've seen as a crank. And like one of the other characters remarks that without the guidance of the Doctor, his actions were just seen as insane, and there was a big Daily Mail expose, you know, and like he blew up the Silurians, and it's just seen as, you blew up half a Surrey, what were you doing? I
love the line, it's like every time you ran security on an event, someone got killed. But I think the thing that I really like about it is, like, when it comes to doing alternate timeline fiction, basically, you know, it's one of those tropes that you saw a lot in TV shows, and I feel like every time we got that, it was all the people that you liked are now evil. Yeah. Where, like, this is more of a sort of, things just haven't gone quite in the direction that it could have, and it really grabs the opportunity to tell an impossible, like, a story that just doesn't fit in any way into... Yeah. They've really sort of ran and went full pelt with this idea that they're unbound by canon, basically. I really like that aspect of it.
Me too. Like, it's a more emotional performance than we ever really get from Courtney in the TV series to a certain extent. It's slightly heartbreaking to see him in there, but I think it goes to show that, while I wouldn't claim Nick Courtney as the greatest actor ever, you know, he can do the emotional stuff if it's given to him. Mm-hmm. Do you know what really surprised me, actually, going back to this, was I forget how little Nick Courtney was used playing the Brigadier in those early Big Finishes when he was still alive. Yeah. Which is a shame. You would think he'd be part of the family, as it were.
It's always that thing with Big Finish, and obviously obviously they're doing good stuff as well. But, like, a lot of the draw is just being with these people again and being with these characters again. Yeah. And it is lovely that he played such a big part of it. I think the thing that I really liked as well is that he's so unwilling. The character's so unwilling. He just kind of gets dragged into it, and there's these constant reminders that it's a different place as well. Like, I love that bit towards the end when it's like, when the Doctor's talking to the Master, and then he starts talking to Colonel Wood, and you realise that he doesn't trust him. Yeah. And you're like, oh yeah, because he doesn't know him. Yeah.
So it's written by Jonathan Clements, who's not a name I was particularly familiar with, but he wrote for the early unit range that they had, the Bernice range, a couple of main range stories, including Brave New Town, The Destroyer of Delights, and Survival of the Fittest. But he also wrote a lot for the Big Finish Judge Dredd range, and he speaks both Chinese and Japanese, and many of his works relate to East Asia. And he's had so many non-fiction publications on the subject, ranging from the history of the Vikings through to the life of Chairman Mao, which kind of explains the setting. And I was a little bit worried going in when I remembered, when this is set. And one of the first things you hear is a racist character, as you mentioned. But that's kind of a comment on things. You also, unfortunately, and I don't know whether you picked this up, there's definitely Nick Briggs doing a pretend Chinese accent in one of the opening scenes. No. Which has not aged well.
I'll need to go back and listen to that one.
But on the whole, the Chinese characters are played by Chinese characters, and, it's handled with a lot of respect, because even though we're talking about the early noughties, there's still a danger that this could have been something else and a lot more problematic. But this guy obviously knows Asian culture very well, and I think he delivers a competent script. And again, something that's a bit different for Doctor Who.
That's something I thought about as well, actually, with the language and everything, and the way that it was playing out. And I was like, God, does the writer really know his stuff, or is he just really good at looking like he knows his stuff? Either way, I'm not going to find out. But he sounds like he's done a good job.
It's a bit James Bondish with invisible plane crashes. It's a political thriller, essentially. The sci-fi stuff is sort of second fiddle. So as we mentioned earlier, it's this sort of sequel to The Mind of Evil in a universe where the Doctor wasn't there to stop it, and they call it the Keller machine rather than the Keller machine.
Yeah.
And it's turning people into mindless zombies, essentially. And this parasite is being held in a soul jar with song, just like in the Rings of Akaten. So there's another little sort of new series.
Oh yeah, of course.
Comparison.
Yeah.
It started life as something completely different. So Clement said, my first idea was to do something that capitalised on the world overrun with Silurians and dinosaurs, with no plastics available, a kind of post-Holocaust situation. I had the idea of an opening sequence inspired by aliens with a unit squad decimated by shrieking raptors and the sound of medics dragging a mortally wounded Brigadier to safety when an officer screams, someone get me a doctor, and then you hear the TARDIS materialising and the theme tune kicks in, which I think would have been great, but it's also a bit too much. There was a New Adventures that did a sort of similar thing, I think.
Right.
I think it works better as not going for that obvious Doctor Who route of, like, the Silurians have taken over. I think it's a much more interesting world.
Yeah, it's what we were saying earlier about just trying to be a bit more interesting with the way things could have gone, rather than, it's all gone to shit, or everyone's evil.
It's trying very hard to be sort of grown-up Doctor Who, and I think it largely succeeds. It's political intrigue, and the characters are all a bit downtrodden, and they have issues, and, two people are trying to have a shag and are interrupted by an invisible plane crash, and there's swearing. And I think this might be, I could be wrong, but the first case of swearing in Doctor Who. I can't think of anything else at any point where there's been swear words in Doctor Who up until this point. Actually, no, maybe the New Adventures. Certainly the first time I've heard characters say it rather than in prose. Tenuous anyway.
I did have that weird thing, actually. I totally forgot about that, but you're right. When the two characters at the start are trying to find a place to have a shag, and like something shorted in my brain. I was like, what's happening? People don't have sex in Doctor Who. What are you talking about? This is...
And of course the person doing the majority of the swearing is a little known actor at the time called David Tennant. David Tennant
going full sort of weird, non-existent Scottish accent. The sort of train spotting accent I like to call it. It's a sort of... I'm not even going to attempt to do it, but it's you know the one. Again, I was surprised when because I didn't look at the cast, so I was surprised when I heard him. I was surprised when I heard Mark Gatiss turn up as well. So but he's David. Is that one of two things he's done for Big Finish?
He's done a few. He's in that.
He's in the Is it the Nazi one he's in?
He's also in their range Dalek Empire as well. I think the second series he plays the lead in that.
Oh yeah. Okay.
He was all over those early releases because he was mates with Mark Gatiss, I think, and
right.
He was like, I know this guy. He's a good actor and he loves Doctor Who. And he was like, oh, a chance to appear in Doctor Who. This'll never come around again.
I know, Christ. And who'd have thought that his bloody one acting part with the Brigadier was him being incredibly mean to him?
So he plays Colonel Brincombewood. He's the leader of unit, and he's the guy that really sees the brig as an embarrassment and does anything he can to rile him up. And I think Tennant's really good in this.
Yeah.
You know, he's frantic, he's ambitious, he's paranoid. And there's this wonderful moment, and I think this really shows what a great actor Tennant is, where it's midnight, the handover's happened, and you know, Tennant and his men are stuck behind enemy lines, and the sheer panic, like you feel like you're watching an action film and you can see it all. It's all very visual, I think, the entire thing.
Yeah.
And I think Tennant's performance really helps sell that. And he's almost like the modern version of the 70s man from the Ministry. Do you know what I mean? Like, who doesn't believe the Brigadier and ultimately thinks units are waste of space, even though he's in charge of it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he's sort of a very easy way to represent everyone's attitudes towards him at that point.
But obviously, Tennant isn't playing the Doctor yet. And we've got David Warner here playing the Doctor. We talked a little bit about him before and what you'd seen him in and stuff like that. So would you say that Time Bandits is your favourite David Warner performance?
It's up there. It's definitely up there. Yeah.
Time Bandits, Tron, Star Trek.
Torturing Picard.
Yeah.
And he was the head of the sort of Klingons. King of the Klingons in Star Trek 6. He gets assassinated in Star Trek 6.
He does, but he's also in Star Trek 5 as well, isn't he? Mm-hmm. Is he playing a Klingon or a Vulcan or a...
No, I think he's a human in 5.
But he's just one of those actors that's always been there.
Yeah.
And if you're a fan of science fiction, even if you don't know who he is, you're like, oh, it's that guy.
He's one of those actors that will take the job on and just throw themselves into it. And will always give it his all. No snobbery, nothing like that. He will... It was like, what was the story that I read about? It was Ian Holm. He was on set with Ian Holm or something like that. An actor like that. And he was saying, oh, I'm going off to do this Kafka film next, playing the part of whatever. And he says to David Warner, I hope the story's true. He says, what's next for you? And he says, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze. So yeah, he's I think that's one of the things, because he brings a sort of level of credibility to some absolute daft nonsense.
Like, there's lots of stories that have come out about him since he died, and there's a great, somebody said, and I'm definitely misquoting them here, when he was doing Dreamland, that animated Doctor Who David Tennant story.
Oh yes.
Somebody from Doctor Who magazine was obviously very excited to interview him and tried to ask quite a deep question about the character, and he just went, I'm playing a giant cockroach. What more is there to say?
Oh, brilliant.
As with Unbound, it's all very much actors that shoulda, woulda, coulda played the Doctor. And for a long time, it was thought that he would play Hartnell in An Adventure in Time and Space, or what became it, because Mark Gatiss had been trying to get it made since around the 40th anniversary.
They were pals, weren't they? Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So, and I mean, I think he would have been a good Hartnell as well. Like, he certainly had that look, and I can imagine that if David Bradley hadn't have come along, he would have been first choice.
God, robbed of him in Twice Upon a Time as well. Such a shame.
Yeah. He was also, I saw him at a convention years ago. He said on stage that he was up for the role of the Doctor and he wasn't available, but the person who got the role in the end was Tom Baker. So it's... He could have been a fourth Doctor. So, is there a universe where you don't have Tom Baker and you have David Warner? How would we feel about that?
I don't know if I could have made... I couldn't make... That's...
Scarcely bears thinking about.
Sophie's choice.
But here he is playing an alternative third Doctor. You've talked a bit about him already, but what do you think of his Doctor as it's presented in this story?
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I think it's it's quite understated, but his voice, I mean, obviously all we got is his voice, but he brings so much to it and I think, you know what, actually, I think the thing I like about his performance in it is that he hasn't pulled anything from anyone else, I don't think. I think he's just gone in and played it as himself, and it works. And I think I really appreciate that. And I think what's exciting about, I mean, I'm now going to have to go and listen to other Unbound stories, but I do love this idea of dipping into other could-have-beens, Yeah, no, I really liked it, and it was just lovely to hear his voice.
As you say, it's very easy, I think, especially at this time, to get people to play the Doctor in a skit or in a big finish who haven't done it before, and to send the role up, or to do an impersonation of what they remember John Pertwee or Tom Baker doing, because that's the golden years in inverted commas. And as you say, he just makes it his own. He's quite serious, understated, but there is a lightness of touch to it as well. Like, it's not just like a serious Doctor, it's just that he's alone in this place with this one person he kind of knows. But there's there's nice moments where he tricks the Master into thinking that the pub is his TARDIS and things like that. So you can see a bit of that lightness of the Doctor there.
That whole, I was doing the dishes actually for the last 15 minutes. I was doing the dishes and I was like, yes, that's brilliant. I think the other thing I was going to say as well is that I guess you're right, there's a sort of a hint of sadness about him. And he's playing it as a sort of, he's a lost kind of Doctor, and he's had sort of his mind partially wiped, and he's lost his ability to kind of travel, and he's just a bit sad, and a bit like, you think about like the way Christopher Eccleston comes back, and the way he plays is kind of a bit like that as well. There's an edge, there's a darkness and a sadness in there, and
it needs somebody like him and like his gravitas to kind of, gravitas is a very overused word, but when describing a Doctor Who, but it is true in this case. It needs somebody who's going to take it seriously and think about what they're doing with the role. And I think the real winner here is the relationship between the Brigadier and the Doctor. It's these two untrusting men who knew each other a long time ago, that both kind of need each other. There's that moment where the Brigadier goes, "Where were you when I needed you?" Yeah. And they're trying to learn to get to know each other again and trust each other again. And it's that relationship, watching it evolve over that hour and 10 minutes it is really great.
Definitely. And when they end up sort of travelling together at the end, yes, I did go, is there more of these?
Well, so there is one more with him. And
okay, cool.
Which I remember really enjoying, and I'm definitely going to go back to it at some point over the next few months. There is also Bernice Summerfield goes into that universe, and that Doctor appears again, and eventually that Doctor ends up in our universe. And I think the last thing that David Warner ends up doing is this thing that's coming out for the 60th with Christopher Eccleston next year.
Wow, I had no idea.
Christopher Eccleston announced it at a convention recently, basically, that he'd recorded something with David Warner, which I assume is those two as the Doctor.
It's hard to keep track of Big Finish announcements. It's just...
Yeah.
Because every time there's something announced now, it's like, have I seen this already? Is this what
I thought they did that 10 years ago. It's not just David Warner here playing the Doctor. We also have an alternative Master in the form of Mark Gatiss, who is even credited as Sam Kisgart, so as not to give the game away. What do you think of Mark Gatiss as the Master here?
Again, very sort of, he went for a sort of more chilling tone with the Master, definitely underplayed. And I mean, now I think of the Master as someone who should mirror the actor should mirror the actor who's playing the Doctor. But I guess there's a bit of that going on because like I said, he feels a lot more, he's a lot colder basically. He's a very cold Master, and I quite liked it. I was again, like I said earlier, I was surprised to hear his voice when it popped up.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's good. I loved his little bit towards the end where he has a right go at the Doctor about, like, where have you been?
Yeah.
All these other situations, all these other things you could have stopped. That was a great moment.
Yeah, it's him, like, again, it's kind of reflecting what the Brigadier said of, like, where were you when I needed you?
Yeah.
Even though it's about the Doctor returning, it's about the absence of the Doctor for 30-odd years. I do find Mark Gatiss' version of the Master a little bit arch.
Right.
It feels a bit too much like...
A bit cartoony.
Like one of his Doctor Who night skits or something like that. Complete with introducing him with, like, a massive Ainley-like cackle when he first shows up. But again, that Master does show up again, and I think he refines that performance. So for me, he gets better in that role, whereas David Warner hits the ground running. I think Mark Gatiss gets better over time.
Okay.
But we also get, I think this is the first audio regeneration, because a plane crashes, someone gets out, they regenerate. There's like an audio sound, and it's very clever on the kind of the sound design part that you get that it's a regeneration, because now we know what a regeneration sounds like. The new series has given us.
Yeah.
I remember Gary Russell saying the two things they were most pleased about the new series giving them was a sound for regeneration and a sound for the Daleks when they move.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They're like, yes, thank God.
And one of their staff is the standard voice of the Daleks.
Yeah. Coincidental.
Yeah.
I think it's also this thing of, it's again, the Master needs the Doctor, which is a very new series thing. It's not really sold like that back in the classic series, that there's this sort of symbiotic relationship, that they almost kind of need each other and play these games across time and space. I think Gatiss plays the role competently, even if I don't love it. It's also implied that the Master was causing a lot of the events of history, be it fake history like Mars Probe 7 and Stahlman gas and Silurians, plus real history like when we talk about Chairman Mao and things like that. It's kind of implied that he's manipulated some of those to try and get the Doctor's attention.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think is quite cool, because he's stuck on Earth too, ultimately.
It's funny to listen to these sort of alternate stories as well, because I think sometimes context gets a bit muddled up in your head, and you're like, oh yeah, so that if this is sort of post-war games, then the Doctor hasn't seen the Master.
Yeah.
But we know that the Doctor knows the Master, because when he gets mentioned in Terror of the Autons, he's like, that pain in the arse. But
doesn't he say jackanapes?
Jackanapes, yeah. So yeah, when it came up, I was like, my head sort of went, right, where are we? What's happening? It's nice because it's kind of a first meeting in a long time as well. Yeah. Since they were kids, I guess.
Yeah, it would have been. Although I'm sure Big Finish have rectified that since.
Yeah.
You mentioned before the incidental music. That's also a little bit unlike anything you hear in any Doctor Who of that period or before or after, really. It's quite a unique soundtrack. Yeah,
I have to say with soundtracks with Big Finish, they don't normally stand out to me as anything particularly. I mean, obviously it arrives and it does its job, and it's not meant to be. You're not listening to the music, but yeah, there's more of a it's like when I was talking about that sort of misty feel. Like I feel that was coming from the synths for me.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was just such a different feel. Each of these Unbounds also get a new theme tune. How do you feel about the Doctor Who theme as it's presented there?
I always love to hear a new Doctor Who theme. Yeah. Always love to hear a new version of it. So yeah, it was lovely. It was nice.
My issue with it is it sounds very 70s, which is fine. But then this is sort of supposed to be Doctor Who at the 70s, but then the incidental music and the main thing isn't very 70s.
Right.
So there's kind of a weird juxtaposition between the two that just my brain goes, that's not right. But,
yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess I didn't think of putting it in sort of time frame. But I kind of have that thing with Big Finish where they, if whatever Doctor it is, they'll throw their theme tune in. And I do know what you mean. I do know what you mean with that, because I get that with the sort of the modern kind of production values of the sound design and everything, and then we maybe throw into the 70s theme tune or something like that, and it can throw me. So I can see where you're coming from. Yeah.
Anything else you want to say particularly about this story?
I think overall, I feel like that window of Doctor Who, after it being cancelled and before coming back, it was very much catering to its grown-up audience, the way that the New Adventures and all that were as well. And I appreciated that. I think I liked that a lot. And I think the move towards darker storytelling it so frequently goes wrong for me. And but this knew how to do it, and I didn't even mind when David Tennant swore.
And you listen to more of
100%.
Courtney and David Warner.
Oh my god,
Space.
I've listened to 100 of them. Yeah.
So is it a clanger or a banger?
100% banger.
Fantastic. 100% banger from me too.
Too hot for TV.
Before we move on to our next choice, I just want to have a quick chat about the Third Doctor in general, because you've picked Heralds of Destruction, which is a Third Doctor comic from Titan Comics. But what's your general feelings on the Third Doctor era and the unit family?
I'm a big fan. Very big fan. Season 7's probably if I was to choose a season, it would be my favourite season. I think, when I was getting into Doctor Who as well, that was the period that I was most watching. I do love that there's a bit more of an ensemble in it. I do like Earth-based stories, I think I've realised. And it's funny actually, because I used to work with a guy who was a kid when it was all on, and when I was talking to him about Doctor Who, I would say, like, you know, that was like that really is like one of my favourite eras of the show. And he got really upset. He was like, what? he says, all I remember is I was watching Doctor Who, and then all of a sudden he works for the army now, and he drives a fucking clown car, and he doesn't go anywhere. I was like, well, that's a good point. Like, if you were watching it at the time and that's just what Doctor Who was now, you'd be like, what's... It's so funny that context is like, now we know where it goes and we know what happens, but it really must have been mad to be at the time. It's like, he doesn't leave Earth anymore. And it was funny that it was Terrence Dicks that was saying, it's like, you know, that really sort of stuck us to either alien invasions or mad scientists.
Yeah, but what's weird is that Terrence Dicks says that, but it still takes him 3 seasons to write him out of that predicament. Yeah. Which is very odd. But then you get the cool stuff of, like, he goes on the odd mission for the Time Lords and stuff like that. I think it's a very accessible version of Doctor Who. And I think when I was growing up in the 90s getting into Doctor Who, most of the video releases were from, again, what our parents' generation deemed as the golden age, which was the 70s of John Pertwee and Tom Baker. So the stuff that was available was not the Twin Dilemma or things like that. It was like Day of the Daleks. And I remember renting all these from the local video shop and enjoying them that way, of like Day of the Daleks, Terror of the Autons. And when there was repeat seasons, it was always Spearhead from Space and the Demons and the Sea Devils and things like that. So I always think there's this thing of, especially the early 90s to mid-90s, it feels like John Pertwee's the Doctor again, because his stories are always on. Yeah. They're always repeated. You get the Paradise of Death and Ghosts of End Space. And John Pertwee is just doing all the chat shows. Yeah. So it's this weird thing of John Pertwee gets a second run at being the Doctor. Yeah. His last appearance is... do you not sort of surprise a kid on surprise? Yeah. And it's so funny. What's so mad about that is, like, you've got a kid who's like 12 or something, and like, would that really have been his? Would he have even known what was going on if John Pertwee turned up? We've got Doctor Who here for you. It's like, who the fuck is this? Where's Sylvester McCoy? I think the other thing I like about the John Pertwee era as well is, like, I think the thing I like about the Earth-based stories is the location filming. Yeah. You get much more sort of varied locations than a Quarry when they're kicking about, you know. No, you do. You get... I mean, it's never quite central London, apart from like a bit of the Silurians and a bit of Spearhead from Space. But it has that kind of Avengers feel, like, you know, in an episode of The Avengers, which was obviously shot on film and stuff like that, you're suddenly in a quaint English village. But you get that, but then you also get loads of factories and things like that. It's heightened reality, but it feels like you're getting a real slice of 70s Britain. There's that... I'm assuming it's stock footage of the dolls being made in Spearhead from Space. Yeah. But it's like, you don't get things like that in Doctor Who up until that point. It feels like a bold change of, like, we're in a factory, this is how dolls get made, and also they're going to fuck you up. It's a snapshot of a time as well. Like, we did the Green Death on an episode of I Hate Doctor Who, and the friend I had on it, we were talking about how, like, you know, they went to a Welsh mine and all that sort of stuff, and it's like, your head immediately goes, oh, this is a set, and, you know, this is, we're visiting the past here, and you're like, and then you sort of go, oh no, this was happening at the time. Yeah. All of these places that are going are just things that were happening at the time. Too hot for TV. So you chose this next piece of Doctor Who, The Heralds of Destruction from Titan Comics, which was released from the 14th of September 2016 to the 22nd of February 2017. Now, at the time, Big Finish are really in their stage of releasing far too much stuff, so I won't list everything that they released, but big releases at the time included Doom Coalition 3, the Third Doctor Adventures Volume 2, and then the New Adventures adaptations of Original Sin and Cold Fusion. Also out at the time was Dot to Doc, which is a Doctor Who dot to dot book. Try saying that after a few drinks. Wow. There was no new series that year. Class premiered in October, and The Return of Doctor Mysterio was premiered in December. So it was quite a year for Doctor Who. Class? I keep forgetting that Class happened. Yeah. I forget that Class, the cliffhanger. Do you remember the cliffhanger with the Weeping Angels? I never finished watching it. I saw the first 2 episodes and that's it. I've heard about it since, but... Yeah, there was some weird... I can't even tell you what it was, but there was some weird reveal to show that the Weeping Angels were coming in some form. And then, of course, the first step... You watch the first episode because it's like, well, I know the Doctor's going to turn up. So I'll watch that. But I ended up watching the whole thing, and I couldn't...
the thing that really annoyed me was that it was meant to be Coal Hill.
Yeah.
And like, it's a different school. You're in a different building.
Well, they say it's a new college or something, don't they?
Right,
Just
okay.
down
Is
the
that what it is? Yeah.
I gather that, like, had there been a second series, you would have gone to the planet of the Weeping Angels, which would have been
Right,
well.
yeah.
I remember when it was announced, and I remember thinking to myself at the time, this screams of something that was pitched to the BBC as nothing to do with Doctor Who, and they've gone, how can we do it? Oh, we'll tag the Doctor Who thing on there. And
Right.
Patrick Ness, who was the showrunner, did
Yes.
admit later on that was exactly what it was.
Oh, I see. So he wanted to do a sort of Buffy type thing, and then they went, let's bang. Do you remember when Class was announced? Do you remember how it was announced?
Yeah.
I just
Everyone
remember-
lost their shit.
Oh, that was brilliant.
And it was the classic of Susan's coming back or Torchwood's coming back, and it was like, Class, a bunch of characters you've never met before, vaguely related to Doctor Who, and Peter Capaldi might show up because he's out of work this year.
Doctor Who spin-offs are, in terms of spin-off TV shows, I'll be interested to see what happens when Russell T Davies takes over, because I feel like the Doctor Who spin-offs are such a challenge.
Yeah.
Because you just want to see the Doctor.
Yeah.
I feel like you're always just like, what's the Doctor doing? I mean, I did enjoy some of Torchwood.
Yeah.
And not to say that it isn't possible, obviously, but it must be such a difficult thing to come up with any sort of Doctor Who spin-off.
Yeah, you kind of need really compelling characters. You need the unit family in the 70s sort of thing, and go, right, give them a TV show. I think it works. Yeah. Sarah Jane works because it's Doctor Who light for kids, essentially, and strangely more like classic Doctor Who than the new era. But you can't just take the Sarah Jane mould and go, oh, let's put Nyssa in there or something like that. We're very lucky that Sarah Jane was such a compelling lead and the kids related and reacted to her in such a way.
Yeah.
While I've got no doubt we're going to see Doctor Who spin-offs, what form they take, I have absolutely no idea. But it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Oh, I'm excited to find out, for sure.
And there's also, Russ T Davies has given all those interviews before he was taking over Doctor Who again. It's like, you do this, you do that, and everybody's hanging on their every word.
Everyone's looking forward to the Tegan and Ace spin-off.
You never know. Anyway, we digress. Also at the time, the Cyberman comic strip, the one-pager backup strip, was back in DWM. That was also there in the 90s. Shooting was underway on Series 10. The Power of the Daleks animation was announced, and The New Adventures of Bernie Summerfield, Volume 3, The Unbound Universe, had just come out, featuring David Warner and Mark Gatiss. So, there you go.
There you go. It all ties together.
It all ties together. And then Rona Munro was announced to be coming back to Doctor Who, and The Pirate Planet was finally novelised. So that was what was going on in the world of Doctor Who.
Too hot for TV.
Answering a call from the Brigadier, the Doctor finds the village of Fairfoot under attack from a race of robotic aliens, which the Doctor contains in a force field. Back at Unit HQ, the Doctor enters his lab to find the second Doctor there. Meanwhile in Fairford, a unit general shows up to take charge, but the Brigadier soon reveals him as the Master. But before the Brigadier can take him back to Unit HQ, the Master escapes using his mask as a parachute. Back at the lab, Jo is attacked by a sample of the robotic metal, and the Doctor goes into her mind to try and save her, where he talks to the robotic creatures and vows to help them. When the Doctor and Jo come to, they find the second Doctor gone and the Brigadier there, who is actually the Master in disguise. The Master reveals the second Doctor is actually Salamander, who has been spying on them for months. Salamander was dragged to Earth by the TARDIS after being flung into the vortex, where he used his foreknowledge of science to become rich, including the robots attacking Fairford. As the Doctor and unit descend on Salamander's HQ, Salamander sends the entire building back to 1868, where he tries to use his machines as leverage with the government, but the Doctor convinces the machines that he will take them to a planet of their own where they can live in peace if they leave Earth alone. The unit team return to the present, with Salamander taken prisoner.
Too hot for TV.
This was your suggestion. Why this one?
So like I said, when I said to you before at the beginning of the call that spin-offs have always kind of eluded me a little bit. Comic spin-offs even more so. In fact, the comic strip in the magazine, I only recently really got into, again, listening to you and Jack talking about it. And I went and bought the 8th Doctor ones and just absolutely blinded by them. It was just phenomenal stuff. But I think at the time I was following Paul Cornell on Twitter, and I was getting constant updates about this this comic. So seeing the screen, like seeing the pages and the panels and all that come up, and it being from that time in Doctor Who, I felt quite drawn to it. And I was like, okay, I have to see this. And then there was the spoiler. The first, I think it was the first issue, ends with the second Doctor appearing and all that. So I was like, well, that's that ruined. And it turns out there was something more. I think a comic adaptation or a spin-off of a particular TV show lives or dies on its art. Yeah. And I think one thing I really love about this book is that the likenesses are quite good. Yeah. Especially the Master. The Master is absolutely bang on. The Pertwee one kind of shifts a wee bit. Yeah. But I think overall, I think it looks great. And I just thought, I picked it up in the paperback when it was sort of compiled into a book. And I really enjoyed it. So when you asked me to choose a spin-off, I was like, I for some reason in my head it sticks out, but I realise there's hundreds of Doctor Who comics, and they're constantly doing multi-Doctor meetups and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, there's a lot out there, and it's weird. We haven't actually covered any of the Titan comic stuff on this, so I was happy to jump in. I think this is the only Third Doctor one. Really? I think so. There doesn't seem... There was certainly none advertised at the back of the book. Right. There's a couple of Fourth Doctor ones. I've got a Fourth Doctor one I've not read yet, but it seems obvious to me to go back and do that sort of stuff, because it's the most far gone stuff. So it's the most exciting to see new bits of. Yeah. And I think that's kind of how I got... Like, I've always been a bit of a comic fan, but I just never got into, like I said, I never got into sort of spin-off stuff. Yeah. It's always been original stuff. So when I picked this up, like I said, it was exciting because the likenesses were all quite great, and it was just set in a period of Doctor Who that was so familiar, and it just felt really nice to kind of be back in there in some form. And I really threw myself into it, and I really enjoyed it, so that's why I chose it, basically. I mean, it's recognisably 70s Doctor Who in an instant. Yeah. You get this, you get the Doctor in a gentleman's club, you get small English villages, you get the Master in a mask. It could almost be an illustration of a story from that time, especially at the start. But for me, it kind of slowly pulls you out of that era. The first thing is that these robots that just look very new series. They do. So all of us. That's the first thing that hits you, isn't it? I was going to say, like, that's the first thing that kind of takes you out of it, is that they look. Yeah, they're almost like from something else entirely. Exactly. And then it slowly disappears into a big pile of fan wank. And we can't go too far. I mean, people will have heard the plot. We don't do spoiler warnings on this at all, so it's just spoilers all the way. We need to talk about this fan wank. So first things first, the second Doctor shows up, and I kind of let out a kind of huge sigh, as I'm aware that extended media, particularly the comics, have a habit of doing multi-Doctors again and again and again. So all of a sudden I was very uninterested and very unexcited. But of course it's not the second Doctor, is it? Who is it? No. It's Ramon Salamander. I could not believe my fucking mind. My eyes. No, I thought that. Me neither. But it's a great slow reveal. And this comes down to the art. There is a moment in a frame where he doesn't quite look like the second Doctor. And you go, oh, actually, he looks a bit like Salamander there. And you just think, oh, it's just a mistake. And then it happens again. And then you're like, it's fucking Salamander. And so I sent a picture of it, to this reveal, to Jack, and he was like, that's fucking brilliant. And then the next frame is him with a chronivore flying through time, and Jack's response was, fuck off, cancel Doctor. There's a couple of great moments like that where you're just like, this is... I'm going off away from Salamander here, good. But the Master's mask tech, I fucking loved it. They were like, I'm going to write an explanation as to why the Master can make a good mask, because masks are shite and they shouldn't work. But he's like, oh no, it's part of the TARDIS, I can control it. But when he turns his mask into a parachute and jumps out. It's not even just a parachute. It looks a bit like a helicopter parachute as well. Yeah. It's so Roger Moore James Bond. It's untrue. I was just like, this is fucking ridiculous. But I went with it at all times. That, like, as I said, the biggest bit that I didn't like was when I thought it was the second Doctor.
And to have that
Right.
reveal that it's Salamander, who ended up in the 70s, became a millionaire using his micro sort of weather technology, his micro machines, as he calls them.
So is he meant to have appeared after... What's the story after Enemy of the World? Is it Web of Fear?
Yeah, so he gets flung out the TARDIS into the time vortex and then ends up in the 70s.
But does he not say that he gets dragged along by the TARDIS and basically ends up where the TARDIS
is that it?
lands
Oh, yes,
next?
of course, that's it, yeah.
So he sort of gets pulled through the vortex, but he lands in
Yeah.
London.
Oh, of course,
wherever...
yeah, because you get that frame where he's by the Londoners Flee, Menace Spreads. And there he is. He kind of sets up as he basically becomes a multi-millionaire, and he's there in his 70s suit. And
there's some weird, vague technical explanation as to why he's watching the Three Doctors on television.
Yeah. Well, he bugs the Doctor's lab, doesn't he?
That's
and
it.
learns
That's it,
all
yeah.
about the Time Lords, and it's all very... I mean, it's all complete bollocks, but it's great fun.
I know. If you think about it at all, like, how is Salamander able to do such a good impression of the Second Doctor?
Yeah. And then he gets more and more obscure, and by the end of it, he's sort of this Doc Ock figure from Spider-Man. And he's got all these tentacly micro machine things.
He's wearing this weird kind of technological mad suit that he's... Yeah, I do love... I think I love it when he manages to turn the whole building into a time machine.
Yeah, that reminds me a little bit of Sharda, where you get the professor's digs essentially floating through time and space.
I was going to say it's a bit. There's a touch of the Douglas Adams about it, isn't there?
He pulls them all back in time to 1868, which obviously allows for the Third Doctor to say, "Madam, what year is this?"
What year is it?
But by that point, I'm completely pulled out of it as a 70s bit of Doctor Who.
Oh yeah,
It's very much doing comics, and doing comics, I think, quite well, with all these brilliant frames of like, look at this amazing image of this building here, and now we're in the Parliament in the 1800s and things like that. But it no longer feels like a 70s Doctor Who story at that point.
it's because they can go to multiple locations.
Yeah, very true.
Basically. Yeah. The other thing that's very not 70s Doctor Who is people talking about their feelings.
Yes, we get a lot of that.
Well, there's definitely I mean, he's tried to write in a bit of like, you know, because he said it just after the Three Doctors, I think.
Yeah.
He's trying to set up why everybody is kind of
The way they were, the way they are.
Yeah.
It's the thing I like that spin-off media does, that gives a bit more emotion and backstory to things that seem random, like Mike Yates being a traitor, essentially.
Yeah.
And you get... So the story opens where you actually see Mike Yates and Joe Grant on their much-talked-about date. Which is quite nice to see. And you also get the Doctor in a gentleman's club, which, you know, he talks about but never does. So that's quite a nice little setup. And then later on, Benton asks Mike about his date with Jo, and he just goes, "Oh, I don't think she's interested. She'll be going off with the Doctor in time and space." And he goes, "I feel like it's time for a change," or something. At this point, I'm thinking, are they making Mike Yates gay? That was my initial thought. And then as you go on, you get this plot that he's just weary and tired, and the Master kind of influences him a little bit, and guys, you're fed up with this. And when he gets back to the 1800s, he sees all the greenery and goes, "Oh, this is lovely," and thinks, probably, when I get back, I'll figure out how to destroy modern society and bring the dinosaurs back.
Yeah, makes sense.
But he manages to do quite a lot, I think, with the characters. And I think, you know, you get the full unit family. You get even down to Corporal Bell and Osgood make a little cameo.
Of course, they give Osgood the inhaler as well.
Yes, exactly, to imply that he's related to other Osgood. And so Benton doesn't get that much to do, and neither does the Brig. But that was how it was in 70s Doctor Who. So, like, it's about the Doctor, Joe, the Master, and Mike Yates gets his moments.
I feel like the Doctor uses his sonic screwdriver a lot more in this comic as well. Like, he uses it it's like a modern use of the sonic screwdriver.
There's definitely a lot of that. I love that the Master's present, but it's all like a ruse, and the Master, again, he's just playing this game. Again, it's feeding into that new series Doctor and Master relationship of the Master just being really excited to tell the Doctor that he's been tricked and bugged, and it was nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
And as you say, the Delgado likeness is very good, and it's all down to the characters, because for everybody just feels like, as you say, some of the drawings might be a bit off, but everybody just feels like their screen counterpart. They've just been captured really well. And so we get all the character development and stuff like that. But we also get some of the most fantastic stuff is Jo Grant goes through all the classic Jo Grant motions. She gets attacked in the lab. She gets hypnotized. And then we get a trip into Jo's mind.
Jo's mind, yeah.
Yeah. and it is the most 70s image when the Doctor first appears in this,
the text.
Magical.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this magical mystery talk, the yellow submarine image.
I feel like they didn't go hard enough inside Jo Grant's mind. It could have been a lot wilder, but it's just because he sort of ends up in a cave of crystals and
he does that a lot.
Oh no, that's what he. Yeah, but that's how he ends up talking. Of course, he's talking to the micro machines, isn't it? Them being called micro machines.
Yeah,
was
it's just too jarring. I'm just thinking of tiny little cars.
Tiny cars, yeah.
Like
my Supervan City.
Yeah. Like, did Paul Cornell just miss the whole micro machines thing in the 80s and 90s?
Yeah.
I love that stuff in Jo's mind, and like the Doctor's expecting to meet like a dark version of her or something, and she's just exactly the same, this peace-loving hippie.
Yeah.
Again, these micro machines things are the bits of it that don't really work for me. The Doctor's talking to these micro machines, and they're these big creatures, and it just all feels a little too new series for me.
Right. Yeah.
And I get it that it's kind of salamanders, sort of nanobites or whatever you want to call them, nanobots. That's where it loses me. But I think, I keep saying it, going back to it's the character and the feel of it that keeps me going.
There is something off about... I do agree that I feel like some of his dialogue, I'm reading it going, he wouldn't have said that. You know what I mean? There is the odd... There's like, it doesn't... I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but there was a couple of times that I thought maybe like Pertwee wasn't very... Pertwee.
Oh, that's interesting. Because I thought it was pretty much nailed.
Oh, I think a lot of the time it was. I just think there was a few. I wish I could think of a. I did like when Jo had the black marks on her face, the camouflage on her face, and he says, "You look like a Persian panda." That was good. He's
sort of bombastic and as stern as ever, and you get all his iconic poses. Like, you can tell they've gone straight to the Radio Times covers to get his poses and his lines. But you do get that lovely sort of softer moment that you get in a lot of Pertwee stories of where he tells Jo that he doesn't really like the gentlemen's clubs and things like that. He's just trapped there and trying to find things to do, essentially.
Yeah.
It's a competent story, and the characters are lovely. It's filled with a lot of fan wank. The only way I can describe it is it feels like a tie-in comic.
Yeah.
It's 100% tie-in media. It's only for fans. It's taking very much advantage of the comics medium to tell a story that couldn't have been told back in the 70s.
Has Salamander shown up anywhere else?
I don't think so.
Because there's one thing I was thinking like about, Salamander turning up the comics is like, well, I guess that's the only... That is the only way you're going to get him back. It's the only basically if you're writing a comic and it's like, well, I may as well take this opportunity to take this character that is probably not going to appear anywhere else. Which I don't
think Big Finish have done him.
It's that weird thing of like he's going to have to sound like Salamander and not a real Mexican person.
You've got to do a questionable impression of Patrick Troughton doing a questionable impression of a Spanish person.
It's like the Scotty and Star Trek thing. It's like if you cast someone who did a good Scottish accent, then he would be a shite Scotty.
Exactly.
So it sounds like you didn't quite take to it then.
Do you know what? I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. Like, there was enough there to keep me involved in it, and I whipped through it, and by the end of it I was like, I enjoyed this. But actually, like,
it was a good ride is what you said. It's more like it was a sort of a, I enjoyed reading it, but I'm not going to be like, that was a...
I don't think I'd recommend it to people as like the best Doctor Who comic you could get.
No.
But I haven't read many of these Titan books, and we've not covered them on the podcast.
No, me neither.
It actually gave me a little bit of a new lease of life for the comics, because the DWM comics, there's some amazing runs like the 8th Doctor stuff and some of the 5th Doctor and 6th Doctor stuff, and we covered them on the podcast. But actually, if you dip into some of the more generic DWM strips, you find yourself with not an awful lot to say. Like, we did a Pertwee one, I think, or a Troughton one, and I don't think we talked about it for more than 10 minutes, because there just wasn't a lot to say. It was just a generic 3-part Doctor Who story that, had a beginning, middle, and end. Whereas this one, it's like, it's quite a weighty book. It's a trade paperback, isn't it?
It must be a challenge to, someone says, write a new 3rd Doctor story, and you're like, well, if I try to do something completely traditional, then I'm probably just going to end up retreading old ground, maybe.
Yeah, I think there is some of that. Like, I always think it's why a lot of the Big Finish stuff that works so well is with doctors who it felt like their era was incomplete. It's why the Tom Baker audios have never really worked for me.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we've seen the best and the worst of Tom Baker on screen, and his era feels complete. Getting new Colin Baker that is better than the TV, or Peter Davison, it always feels like they could have offered more, especially Colin, because his tenure was cut so short.
Of course, yeah.
So, and then obviously they do a lot for the 8th Doctor and then the 7th Doctor. So this is a really hard era, the 70s, to do something new with that also feels like it. And I think it just about gets away with it.
Yeah. I guess it has that thing as well where it's selling Doctor Who comics in a time when you're really going for the fact that your fan base is probably mostly from new Doctor Who as well, so you're probably having to kind of have a bit of that energy, but also pay homage to the time it's coming from, and so it must be a weird line to walk, definitely. But I think as you said, it's you're not going to sort of go in and recommend it. It's not going to hit one of your top 10 stories or anything like that. But I think for me, it was just like, because I wasn't sure about what Doctor Who comics would be or how I would take to them, and it kind of opened it up a wee bit for me, because I was like, okay, this is daft and it is very comic-y. I did quite enjoy it.
I keep saying this, but there's enough to keep you going, and it comes back to this characterization again. The Brigadier, in particular, who doesn't have a lot to do, has this wonderful line where you can just hear Nicholas Courtney delivering it, where he goes, "The Master's got away, using his face as a parachute." And yes, I'm aware of how absurd that sounds.
Yeah.
And you can absolutely hear 3 Doctors' version of the Brigadier say that, because there's a weird thing that happens with the Brigadier. In the first couple of seasons, he's very much a strong military leader, and then he kind of becomes the straight man, and it becomes slightly more of a comical character. And it is always this thing that really annoys me about the unit family, is that the Brigadier never quite believes the Doctor about what's going on. It's like, you've seen all this shit, and every time is right, but you say, oh no, it can't possibly be creatures from under the ground. Like, that's ridiculous, Doctor.
Yeah, it's got that Scully thing going on after 9 seasons. You're like, why don't you believe it anymore?
You've seen so much. I need to give a big shout out to Christopher Jones and the colorist Hi-Fi, because I really think that the colour palette of this is peak 70s Doctor Who. It's almost like Technicolor. It looks like the Terror of the Autons or the Time Monster, those big sort of colourful stories. Are there any particular images, favourite panels from it or anything like that you really liked?
You know what, one that stuck out, I love there's like a 2-page spread of a face-off between the Master and Pertwee, and then it's like covered with all the shots of them fighting each other, and it's like, what was it, Venusian Aikido versus Martian Kendo or something like that, and then it's like but I quite like that.
It's drawn in a way that it's sympathetic to the 70s, but you get better angles because it's not a studio bound multi-camera thing. I love his first reveal of the Master in the mask. That at the Gentleman's Club, and then the Doctor and Bessie nearly being hit by a missile, and then that big 70s image of the Doctor in Joe's mind. So I thought the artwork was really good. One error in the artwork, which I found out on the internet, and this is the sort of thing that nobody cares about, is that when Salamander is seen being thrown outside of the TARDIS in a flashback to Enemy of the World, the front of the ship appears in a traditional fashion. This is actually an error on the part of the comic, as the run of Doctor Who, which included the Enemy of the World, actually had the doors incorrectly put together with the pull to open panel on the wrong side. That's the sort of shit people come and listen to this podcast for.
That's the sort of thing. I love that the I take it that's from the TARDIS wiki.
Yes, it is. Yeah,
it's so good. I mean, there's an episode. The friends that I have that are kind of semi-regulars on my podcast have this thing that if I go an entire year without doing an episode, they'll secretly record an episode and put it out without me knowing. And the first one they did was Greatest Show in the Galaxy, and they didn't like it. But
they chose a classic for the next one, didn't they?
But the thing that was really hilarious is they kept reading the trivia off of the TARDIS wiki, and every time they did it, they made there was like a doof. It was like doof. The Greatest Show in the Galaxy has the longest title of any Doctor Who episode.
Those episodes are fantastic, and I have to give the most recent one they did was
the King's Demons.
Right? Fucking hell!
It was so weird because when they sent me the MP3, I was like, why that one? And then when they in the episode, it's like, so we looked for the shortest episode. So yeah, I was like, okay, fair enough. I think it was the friend that I got him to do the Green Death. And he was like, 6 episodes? Come on, man. I was like, quieten down or I'll make you watch the War Games.
So, is there anything else you want to say about this comic?
No, I don't think so. I mean, as you say, there's comics are a bit, I guess it is a wee bit limited in what you can talk about. But I think, as we just said, I think it's like, it's an easy read. I had a lot of fun. It got a few laughs out of me just in terms of the sort of ridiculous comicness of it.
Yeah.
And like you said, the salamander reveal is insane. Because the best thing was, I remember when I got the book, I think I tweeted something like, I finally got the Paul Cornell book, but obviously I've already had the Second Doctor spoiled. I've already had it spoiled for me. That's what it was. And someone responded with, "No, you haven't." I was like, oh, okay. And then it was, the salamander thing was like, Jesus.
I think I was aware that Salamander was in a comic, but I don't think I'd put 2 and 2 together when this happened, because I just expected the Second Doctor to be the Second Doctor, because why wouldn't he? So it was an absolute punch the air moment when it happened.
My choice was either going to be this or the Cricket Men. I was like, I can't make him read a 300-page book.
So, is it a clanger or a banger?
I'm going to say I like it. I think it's a banger.
I'll give it a moderate banger.
Yeah, I was going to, because we need something in between, but yeah.
Yeah, but it also needs to rhyme with clanger and banger, so I need to think of something else. It's the rating system on this podcast has always been tenuous.
What did it used to? It was different.
Damn swank.
Oh, fan wank. That was it. Yeah, I couldn't remember.
But it didn't really work. I don't know why the rating system has to rhyme, but there we go.
Too hot for TV.
So, where can people find you on the internet, should they wish to?
Well, I'm on Twitter as Richie Morgan. I do have a Doctor Who account, but I don't use it. I only use it to look at Doctor Who Twitter, basically. But yeah, you find me in Richie Morgan. I have a podcast called I Hate Doctor Who, which I need to get back. It's difficult running a podcast, but I'll get back on it at some point. We'll do another one soon. But
also, there must be a finite number of people that want to do a podcast about hating Doctor Who.
This is the thing. There has to be a bit of a balance. They have to sort of fulfill a certain criteria. If I got someone who did actually hate Doctor Who and then I showed it to them and they were like, no, it's shite, I hated it, there's really not much further you can go with it. It gets quite difficult to get an hour of conversation out of them. So there needs to be a sort of level of politeness about the whole thing.
Yeah.
Which makes it difficult for me to approach. I really wanted to get people that I hadn't got on a podcast before or done anything with before, but it's really difficult. Of course. But 1 or 2 every year, I'm sure. Yeah, exactly. And your mates will always fill in for you if you don't do one, so it's fine. It's keeping the brand alive. Do you want to talk a little bit just before you go about the documentary that you're putting together? Mark from On the Timelash and myself have, for the last year or so, God, I think it's been over a year now, been talking to people and trying and put together a documentary about fandom in the wilderness years of Doctor Who. And what I mean by that is that, there's plenty of films about fandom that cover a lot of different shows, and even there's like a couple about Doctor Who as well. And we just don't want to cover that ground again because it's well trodden. But I think what was interesting is the wilderness years of Doctor Who, one represents a kind of a lost era of fandom, because I feel like there was a way of engaging with the show then that's different now. But also we're looking at people who, we've got people who make fan films and talking about the sort of the pub group thing that happened. And we've done a little bit of filming already. We're doing some filming next weekend. When it will come out, I don't know. Dylan, I'm sure you know this better than anyone, but however long you think a documentary is going to take, it's always going to take longer. But yeah, we're on it. It's happening. But also, we'd love to talk to anyone that that can talk about the convention scene in the 90s, or just got any sort of mad stories about fandom. We've got a real sort of focus on people who got into the show, like young people who got into the show in the 90s, and that sort of journey that they went on.
Exciting stuff. Well, I look forward to that materialising at some point over the next few years.
So do
I. Great stuff. So that's kind of drawing us to a close of this first episode of the new series of Doctor Who 2 Hot for TV. Next time...
Am I the season opener?
You're the season opener,
That's
yes.
exciting.
Yes, exactly. Back with a bang. Next time, I'm joined by Michael Mills. And do you know what Michael Mills is? He's a Doctor Who fan that doesn't have a podcast, which is blown my mind. So Michael is a long-time listener, and he got in touch about coming on the show. We're going to talk 8th Doctor and Cybermen. So we're talking about the Big Finish Audio Sword of Orion and Dreadnought, which is the 8th Doctor and Cybermen comic strip that featured in the Radio Times many, many years ago.
Oh, lovely.
So we'll be back next month with that. But until then, I've been Dylan.
I've been Richie.
And this has been Doctor Who 2 Hot for TV.
Too hot for TV.
Is the 6th one in the range is Annabella Ware from the Fast Show, playing a female Time Lord.
Oh, wow.
A female Doctor.
I'm into that.
And I've heard it's aged very badly.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, no. Did they go for a lot of cliches about...
I honestly can't remember, but... I mean, I desperately do want to cover that on the podcast at some point. So if you end up doing that, I may call you back.
Right, okay.
But anyway, David Warner.